Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. So we've just got to know some vocab. Faces are where you could lay your hand flat on a shape. Then you've got edges where you can run your finger along. And then vertices are the corners, the bits that you would stab into your finger. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the front, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 including the back ones. Multiples are times tables, so the multiples of 2 are the times table of 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc, etc. So the only number in this list that is in the 2 times table is the 6. So this person's at Ashcook at 2017. So they're going to have missed this train here. And they're going to have missed this train here, so those are off. But they will be in time for this train here. And we're looking for the time it hits rise down. So it will get to flute at 20:52, and then rise down will be at 21:24. For us to create the largest number, we need to pick the biggest digits for the start of the number. So the biggest digit is 7, then 6, then 4, then 3. But the question says it wants the largest even number, so we need to just swap the last 2 around to make sure that it is even. So our answer is 7,634. So in this question it says that 450 people are in total, and we know that represented by 360 degrees in a circle. But what I want to do is work out what 1 degree represents. So to get from 360 to 1, we divide by 360. So we're going to do the same on the other side. So 450 divided by 360 is 1.25, or 1 1/4. So 1 degree represents 1/4, or 1 1/4 people. Okay, and we're asked to find how many people answered no, which is 140 degrees. So we want to find out what 140 degrees is. So we obviously need to times that by 140, and we're going to times the other side by 140 as well. And when we do that, we get 175. So it'd be 175 people said no. To find a coordinate, what we can do is we can start in the middle and we work out how far across we have to go. And here we have to go 2 across, so the x coordinate is 2. Then we find out how far upwards or downwards we have to go. And here we can go, well, we have to go 3 downwards. So that's going to be -3. So we first of all look at the x coordinate, the 2, then the y coordinate, -3, along the corridor, up, or in this case down the stairs. I'm going to start just by writing down the number. And we're asked to round this to 3 significant figures, and basically what that means is starting from the left hand side, it's 3 numbers that we want. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our line after that 3rd number. And you start counting the first non-zero digit. So the first digit there was 2, so we started counting. Now all the numbers to the left, or sorry, to the right, so these numbers here, will all turn to 0. But before that happens, we look at this number. Now this number, if it's 5 or more, it moves this number up by 1. If it's less than 5, that number stays the same. Now it is 5 or more, because it is 5. So it's not going to be 207, it's going to be 208. Now, a common mistake is that students write down 208. No, all the numbers to the right of that line turn to 0. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So it would be 20,000 or 208,000 exactly. So when simplifying ratio, it's very similar to simplifying fractions, but instead of the same thing having to do the same thing to the top and bottom, you have to do the same thing to the left and right. So I'm going to start here by dividing both sides by 100, because I noticed they both have 2 zeros at the end. So that'll give me 10 here and 34 here. Now these are both even numbers, so a nice easy next one to do is dividing by 2. And we get, was it 17? And 5 and 17, well, they're both prime numbers, and so there's nothing we can cancel them by, so it's going to be our answer, 5 to 17. So firstly, we're going to work out what the percentage increases are as a multiplier. So we start off with 100%. Jane has a 1.2% interest, pay rise, sorry. And so that would be 101.2%, and we divide that by 100 to make it a multiplier. So the multiplier is 1.012, so we get the 20,000 times it by 1.012, and that gives us 240. Next we do the same for Lenny, so that is Jane. And so let's do Lenny. And so that's 100% plus the 1.5% will be 101.5%. Make that a multiplier, 101.5%. We divide that by 100, which gives us 1.015. And then finally what we do is we get the 17,000 times it by the multiplier, and when we do that we get 255. So Lenny has 255, Jane has 240. So it says which of the employees has a larger pay increase and by how much. So the answer will be Lenny, and it's by £15, because that's the difference between these. There are a number of different ways of working out this question. You can find out the amount of tissues per penny. You can work out the amount of, or the price of one tissue, or you can get all the amount of tissues into the same amount. I'm going to find out the price per one tissue. And we're going to start off with the 24. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the money into pence, just to mean that we don't have as much decimal. And we're going to do 807. I'm going to divide by the 24 to find out the price of one tissue. So that is 33.625. And so I'm just going to round that to 33.63. I'm just going to round everything to 2 decimal places, which it says in the question. Next one, we're going to do the 20 soft tissues. So this time I'm going to do 683 divided by 20. When I put that into the calculator, you get 34.15, so that's already 2 decimal places. And then finally we're going to do the 15 soft tissues. So we're going to do the 623 divided by 15 to find the price per tissue. It should be 41.533 blah blah blah, and rounded would be 41.53. So if you buy 15 tissues, it will cost 41 pence. 20 tissues, it will be 34 pence per tissue, but 24 tissues will be 33.63. So that's by far the cheapest. The best value is the 24 tissues box. Now, there's such thing as buying in bulk. Generally, the more you buy of something, the cheaper it is. Don't rely on that. Both in the GCSE, both in the exam, and in real life. Sometimes in real life, if you buy more of an item, actually per tissue, sometimes it becomes more expensive, especially if there's a special offer on the smaller box. So water to orange is 3 to 2. Ooh. We've got water here and we've got orange squash here. And we're told that we've got 80 centilitres of orange. So we've got 80 here. And we're asked to find the amount of water required. So what we do is we figure out how to get from 2 to 80. Well, we're going to times by 40. If I times that side of the ratio by 40, I've got to times the left-hand side by 40 as well. 3 times 40 is 120. So I'm going to need 120 centilitres of water. With these questions, we've just got to go around and fill in what we can. And there's going to be some numbers like this one here we can't fill in yet. So we're going to have to be strategic in the order we do it. I'm going to first of all look here. And notice that the total of girls and boys is 29. The total of the boys is 18. So take away the 18 from 29 and we get 11. Next one I'm going to fill out is this one. Notice that the total for the green is 15. Total for the boys who's picked green is 12. And therefore for the girls it's going to be 3. Then looking around, what's the next thing that we can fill out? We can fill out this one because the total for the boys is 18, green is 12, blue is 1, therefore we've got 5 left over. Then we can fill out this one, 2 plus 5 is 7. Then we can fill out this one, so 2 plus 3 is 5, then plus another 6 would be 11, and then 6 plus 1 is 7. So we've got to first of all find out what the gradient is for our graph. So we're just going to pick 2 points and draw a triangle between them. So I'm just going to pick this point here and this point here. And there's no reason I picked those, just pick those at random. And we look at how far it's going to cross. So it's gone across 10. How far it's gone up. So it's gone from 24 to 36. So it's gone 12 up. And to work out the gradient, which you can call n, or you can just write out the word gradient, it's change in y over change in x. So how much has y changed over how much has x changed? So y is this one here, so it's changed by 12, and x has changed by 10. So it's 12 divided by 10, which is 1.2. Now a gradient represents the amount of change in the y per one change in the x. So for every 1 mile we travel, we're going to go up, it's going to cost 1.2 more. So the interpretation that we give for this context, because this is about taxis, is that the taxi will cost £1.20 or 120 pence per 1 unit on the x per mile. And that's true for the gradient for any context. It's for every one of this, how much of this increases, how much the y increases by. The front elevation of a shape is the view you'll get if you were standing at the front. So if you imagine you're standing here, the only side you will see is this side here. And what will it look like? Well, it will look like a complete square or rectangle. And how high will it be? Well, it will be 6 centimeters high. And how wide will it be? Well, it will be 2 centimeters wide. So what we're going to do is we're going to just draw a rectangle that is 2 centimeters wide and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 centimeters tall. There we go. And make sure that you don't add any three-dimensional aspects to it, that you don't do something like this, have some 3D stuff on it. No. Whenever you do a front elevation, it's exactly perfectly two-dimensional. The first piece of information I'm going to focus on is the fact Denver gets 8/19. Denver gets 8/19, that means that Engel and Fido together must get 11/19 because they have to add up to 1. So we're only looking at 11/19. I'm going to focus on the ratio next of Engel to Fido. So it's 9 to 5. And let's have a look and see, well, first of all, how many parts there are all together. So 9 plus 5, which is 14 parts. So there are 14 parts in total. and the share that they get is 11 over 19. So what I'm going to do is find out what fraction one of those parts is worth by dividing 11 over 19 by 14. So each part is worth, and I'm just going to keep this into my calculator, 0.041 blah blah blah. And we're asked to find Fido's share. Well, Fido has 5 parts, so Fido has 5 parts, each of them worth 0.041 blah blah blah. I've kept it in my calculator to keep the accuracy, and when I do that I get 0.206 blah blah blah. Now we're asked to work it out as a percent, so I'm just going to times that by 100. So we have 20.676 blah 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 percent, and it wants it rounded to the nearest percent, so that would be 20%. Or actually it would be 21%, because this would round it up, so 21%. So angles and a point add up to 360, and we are given the values of the angles but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together, and so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340. And then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. So first thing to realise is that the formula for a volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So what we need to do first of all is work out the volume of the water butt that James currently has. So we're going to do the volume equals pi times the radius, which is 89 squared, times the height, which is 189. And when we do that, we get 1497,069 lots of pi. And I'll keep this in terms of pi just for simplicity. Now, what we want is we want the volume to stay the same. So we're going to keep that as the volume, 1497,069 pi. But we want the radius to change. So instead of the radius being 89, we want the radius to be 103. So times 103 squared. And we're trying to work out what the height is. Okay, so first thing we can do actually is just cross off the pi's from both sides. We don't really need them at all. And then we can get our solving things in, our solving lines, and we can divide both sides by the 103 squared. And on the left hand side we get 141.113 blah blah blah, and on the right hand side we get h. So the height will be 141.113. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that will be 141.11. So we're going to start off with x equals 0, and we're going to write out this equation but with 0 every time it says x. So it's going to be y equals 0 squared minus 0 plus 10. Well, 0 squared is just 0, so 0 take away 0 is just 0, plus 10 is just going to be 10. So the answer there would be 10. Could do the same for 1. So it would be 1 squared minus 1 plus 10. Well, 1 squared is 1, 1 take away 1 is 0, plus 10 is 10. So that will also be 10. 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. 2 squared is 4, 4 take away 2 is 2, plus 10 will be 12. Now we're going to do the negative, so we're going to look at minus 1. So it's y equals minus 1 squared, and it's going to be minus 1 plus 10. So a little bit more complicated here. Minus 1 squared is just 1. Now here you have 2 negatives together. When you have 2 negatives together, it makes a plus. So we've got 1 plus 1 plus 10, which is going to be 12. And then we'll do the minus 2, so it'd be minus 2 squared minus minus 2 plus 10. So minus 2 squared is 4. The two minuses here make a plus, so it'd be plus 2, which would be 6, plus 10 will be 16. So we're going to plot these on our graph. And so we've got minus 2 is at 16, so that'll be there. Minus 1 is at 12, which will be here. 0 is at 10, 1 is at 10, and 2 is at 12. Okay, when you join this up, things to be aware of is you need to make sure that you have a round U at the bottom and not a flat bottom. Okay, so you want to avoid a flat bottom. You also want to make sure that you avoid feathering like that. You want just one nice smooth line. And my recommendation is always to turn the page on its side. I don't have that luxury, so I'm going to try my best with this. But you need to make sure it goes through all the points. And here's the part here where it goes beneath those 2 points. So make sure it goes beneath those 2 points. On most exams, I see them, basically what they do is they draw a line across from those 2 points and say that the line needs to go beneath that, or your curve needs to go beneath that line. So they're looking out that you've gone beneath the line. The first thing to notice is that the tree must be closer to CD than AB. So if we draw a line across the middle, it can't be in the top bit because that would be closer to line AB. The second piece of information that is given to us is it must be at least 11 meters away from point C. So we get our compass out and measure 11 centimeters, or whatever the scale we're using in this diagram is, and we draw a quarter circle from C. And it says shade the region that it can be planted. So this is the region that represents closer to line CD than AB, but also not within 11 meters of point C. When something is squared, you times it by itself. So another way of writing this is 6x to the power of 7 times 6x to the power of 7. The 6's can go together, and the x to the power of 7's can go together. And 6 times 6 is 36. And x to the power of 7 times x to the power of 7. When you times powers, you add them. So 7 plus 7 is 14. Something else you could have done is just squared the 6 to make 36. And one of the rules is that if you have a power on the inside of a bracket and a power on the outside of the bracket, you multiply them. So 7 times 2 is 14. To work out the mass, we will need to find the density and the volume. Density is given to us in the question, but volume isn't. So we need to work out what the volume of this cuboid is. So the volume is just the 33 times the 7 times the 22. So that would be 5,082, and that would be centimeters cubed. And we need to write down the formula for density. So density is the mass divided by the volume. So rearrange this to get mass on its own, because that's the thing we're looking for. So mass equals density times volume. Density is given to us in the question as 2.1 grams per centimeters cubed. Times that by the 5,082 for the volume, and we get the answer of 10,672. And then that will give us grams, because our density is in grams, so that is grams, but the answer is asking for kilograms. So to convert that to kilograms, we just divide by 1,000 and we get 10.672. Then we need to round that to 2 decimal places, and so that would be 10.67 kilograms. we can write the equations of all linear graphs as y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. The easiest thing to find is the y-intercept, because it's just where the line crosses the y-axis, so that's going to be -2. We're going to use that point, so the point we've just drawn on, and we're going to have to find another point to find the gradient. Now, I don't really like this point because I don't really know where that is, and we've got to find a coordinate we know the coordinates for. So looking at this, this is a nice coordinate here. And what I'm going to do is just draw a right angle triangle between the 2 points. Try and get it as nice as I can. And we're going to work out how far up and how far right we went. Well, we went 3 right and 4 up. Now, to find the gradient, what we want to do is we find out how much y has changed, so change in y, so that's how far up it's gone, which is 4, and put that over how far right it's gone, so the change in x, which is going to be 3. So our equation is going to be y equals 4 over 3 x minus 2. So we're going to write an expression for the amount of people on the first bus. So they've started with X passengers and they've gone to 11 bus stops with X passengers. So altogether that is 12X. So we're going to have the first bus. And so we've got 12X. And then on the last bus stop, 19 passengers get on. So plus 19. Now for the second bus, well, we start with X and a further 5X come on. Because 5 bus stops with X passengers. So that's 6X altogether. And then 79 get on. And it says the first bus finishes with less passengers than the first. So the first bus finishes with less. And the way we show that is with this inequality here. Now all we need to do is solve that inequality. And we've got x on both sides, so we look at the x's. We've got 12x and 6x, so we always take away the smaller amount. So we're going to take away the 6x both sides. And next thing we're going to do is take away the 19 from both sides. And so, meant to be 60. Got ahead of myself. And the last thing we do is divide by 6 both sides. And so we've got x is less than 10. Now, it says here, assuming no passengers got off either bus, what is the largest value for x? Now, it is tempting to write down 10, but it says x has to be less than 10. So the biggest number we can get that is less than 10 is 9. So the first thing we need to do is work out the mean for the data in the table. So to start off doing that, we're going to work out the midpoint of each group. So we've got 80 to 85, and to find the midpoint, you add the 80 and the 85 together, then you divide by 2. So this will be 82.5, then 87.5, then 92.5, then 97.5, and then finally 100 plus 105 divided by 2 is 102.5. Next we need to find the FT, which is just the frequency times the duration of calls. Now in this first group we're not timesing it by 80 to 85 or anything like that, we're timesing it by the midpoint, so our midpoint effectively becomes the T. So we're going to do 15 times that, which will be 1237.5, and we're just going to keep going and multiplying each of these together. And then finally 2050. Right, next we need to add up the frequencies and add up the FTs. So we're going to have the sum of the frequencies. So I'm just adding all this column up, and that will be 80. and we have sum of the ft, and so we're going to just add this column up here, and so that would be 7,450. So what this column represents is all the numbers added up together. This column represents how many numbers we have. So to find the mean, it's all of the numbers added together, which will be 7,450, over the amount of numbers we have, which is 80. So when you do that, we get 93.125. Now this question is about the improvement that we've made, or that the manager has made, the call centre's made. So we're looking at subtracting the 93.125 away from the last week, which was 105. So we're looking for improvement, and we're going to do 105 take away the 93.125, and that's going to be 11.875. Now it does ask for 2 decimal places, so that will be 11.88. The key to estimating is that normally you will be rounding numbers to one significant figure and then working out the answer. So I'm just going to rewrite this fraction here, but instead of 93, we're going to round that to one significant figure, so that will be 90. We're going to round the 265 to one significant figure. Now, some people will write 270, but one significant figure means the line goes after the 2, and so that would round to 300. Then 31 will round to 30, and 97 will round to 100. Now the next step is to see things that we can cancel here. So we can divide top and bottom by 10 to make that a 9 and make that a 3. We can divide top and bottom by 100, make that a 3, make that 1. And we can divide top and bottom by 3, so that will make that 1, and that will make that 1. And so at the top we've got 9 times 1, which is 9, and at the bottom we've got 1 times 1. So 9 divided by 1 is just 9. So our answer will be 9. The first thing we need to do is work out the area of the floor, and you'll notice that this is a trapezium. So with a trapezium, the formula is half a plus b times h, and a and b are the parallel sides, so these ones are the parallel sides, and the height is the one connecting the two bases, the two parallel sides. So we're going to start off by writing down the formula. So it'd be half a plus b h. So half times 2.8 plus 1.2 times 11. And when we do that, we get 22. So the area of the floor is 22 meters squared. And it says here that the tiles are sold in packs which cover 3 meters squared. So if each pack covers 3 meters squared, we're going to do 22 divided by 3, which will be 7.33 packs that we need. Now obviously you can't get 0.3 of a pack or 0.33 of a pack. So we're going to have to get 8 packs and just have some left over. So we'll need 8 packs in total. Okay, next thing we look at is the fact that the Jenny has a 25% discount. So we need to find out what 25% discount would do to the £18.60 for the tiles, or for the pack of tiles. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get the £18.60 and we're going to times it by 0.75. So we're just going to find 3/4 of it because she has a 25% discount, and that would be 1,395. So that's the tiles are going to cost £13.95. Now I've done this in pence and I've kind of muddled it together here, so really let's just go back because I've kind of done this in pence. So that would be 1,860 times 0.75. And so each pack will cost 1,395. And the reason we're doing this in pence is the answer needs to be given in pence. So I might as well just make that conversion now. And so it's going to be 8 lots of the 1,395 pence packs, which will cost in total 11,160 pence, or £111.60. But Jenny has £100 to spend, and we're asked how much extra does she need. So we're going to do the 11,160, take away the 10,000 pence that she has, which will give us 1,160 pence. So she needs to find £11.60 or 1,160 pence from somewhere. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10. And we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets. And we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So if we imagine we've got the 25 meter pipe here, and we've got the 35 meter pipe here, the question's basically asking us what can we cut all these pipes into, and they all have to be the same length, that will fit with the 25 meter and the 35 meter. And essentially what this question is asking is, what is the highest common factor of 25 and 35? So to find the highest common factor, what we do is we just find the factors of 25, which is 1 and 25 and 5 and 5, and the factors of 35, which will be 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. And the highest common factor is the number in both lists, the highest number in both lists, so it's 5. So what we can do is we can cut all of these pipes into 5 meter pipes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, not to scale, and then 7 of these, so 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. And so there's 7 in total. So each of these are 5 meter long, and there's no wastage. And that's the longest we can make the pipes for there to be no wastage at all. So my answer is 5 meters. So we're looking for angle DEC, which is this one here, but we can't go directly there. We've got to kind of work our way towards it. And the first thing I'm going to look at is these set of parallel lines here. And we've got a line going through these parallel lines, which is this line. If I try and do it without removing it, this line here. And so therefore this angle here and this angle are going to be corresponding. So this is going to be 69 degrees. So I need to write that down properly. So angle CDE equals 69 degrees because of corresponding angles. Okay. So if I know that the CDE is 69, I also will know that this angle here is 69 because they're the bottom two angles in a triangle. Now, when I say that, I mean when an isosceles triangle is the right way up, the bottom two angles are equal. So they're the bottom two angles in an isosceles, although the isosceles is on its side here. And we need to write that down, so it would be angle DCE equals 69 degrees. And this time it's because it's an isosceles triangle. And finally, we can work out what CED is by taking those away from 180. So angle CED, or actually I should keep it as it says in the question, DEC, is equal to 180, take away the 69 plus 69. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. And when you do that, you get the answer of 42 degrees. So the answer is 42 degrees. We can't work out what x is straight away, but we can find this value here. And we know with Pythagoras we can find a third length if we've got other two in a right angle triangle. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And a and b were labelled. C is always opposite the right angle. So it'd be 49 squared plus b squared equals 68 squared. And 49 squared is 2,401. And 68 squared is 4,624. So we are solving here, so let's get our lines down. And we're going to start by subtracting the 2,401 from both sides. So we've got b squared equals 2,223. Then we're going to square root both sides, and we've got b equal to 47.148, blah blah blah. Okay, we're now looking at the second diagram, and this time we're going to have a, we've got our b, and we're going to call x the c. So it would be a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but this time a is 39. B we are given as 47.148, we've just worked that out. And we're looking for c, in fact we can call it x now. Okay, so we need to square that. So we do 39 squared plus 47.148 squared, and that will be 3,744 equal to x squared, and we'll just get our lines in because we need to square root both sides, and we get 61.188 blah 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 is equal to x. It says it wants it to two decimal places, so that will be 61.19. If I start by drawing a number line, and we're going to put the 110 in the middle. Now I'm going to label the next one down and the next one up. It says to the nearest 10, so the next one down would be 100, and the next one up would be 120. Now we're interested in the cutoff, and the cutoff point is between the two numbers. Okay, so that's the cutoff point. If it goes above that cutoff point, it would have rounded to the next number up. So if the number was here, it would round to 120. If the number is on the cutoff point, which we can see is going to be 115, then we know it would round up. So we need to find the biggest number in this part here. So this part here, and it includes this line actually, so it includes this line. So all the numbers that would have rounded to 110 would have been 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, which would be here. But if it was 115, it would have rounded to 120. So 114 is the biggest number it could have been before rounding to 120. And we know it didn't round to 120 because in the question it says it's 110 to the nearest 10. So our answer is 114. So we're asked to find angle BCE, and that is going to be this one here, because you start at B, go to C, and then go to E, and it's the angle you make. And I might just choose a different colour because we've already got red on here. So we're looking for this angle here. Now, my advice for these kind of questions is always just try and work your way around the shape with angles you know. So, for instance, I'm going to start with this angle here, and we're going to call this angle ADC. And And we know that that must be 79 degrees. And always write down the reason. And we know it is because that is an isosceles triangle. So if you look, we've got an isosceles here, this one, and this one. And the bottom two angles, and I use the word bottom because I always imagine an isosceles as being this way up. The bottom two angles in an isosceles are always equal, so that must be 79. Now we've got two of the three angles in the triangle, and the last one is going to be angle DCA. And to work out what this angle is, we're going to take it away from 180. So we're going to do 180, take away the 279s we've just worked out. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. Okay, so when we do that, we do 180, take away the 158, and we're left with 22 degrees. So we know that this is going to be 22 degrees. And now we can actually work out angle BCE, because it's going to equal angle DCA. And the reason for that is they are vertically opposite angles. So that's just going to equal 22 degrees. Now, it is really common for these types of questions for you to get maybe 1 or even 2 marks for the answer, but 1 or 2 marks normally for the reasons and for the explanations. In fact, I've seen quite a few exam questions where you get 2 marks for the reasons and only 1 mark for the answer. The first thing we can do is work out what the circumference of the full circle would be. Obviously we haven't got a full circle here, but what the circumference of the full circle would be had we got a full circle. So that's going to be pi times the diameter. The diameter is twice as big as the radius, and this 21 centimeters here is the radius of a full circle. So that's going to be pi times 2 lots of 21, which is going to be 42 times pi, which is going to be 131.946, blah, blah, blah. Now, we don't have a full circle here. We've got to work out what fraction of a circle we have. Well, we obviously have a quarter of a circle. So to find the arc length, which is this part here, it's like a part of a circumference, to find the length of the arc, what we're going to do is just get that circumference and we're just going to divide it by 4. So we're going to get the 131.946, blah, 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 and divide it by 4. When we do that, we get 32.986, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's not what the perimeter is. Perimeter is the total distance around the circle. So we've also got to add on the 2 parts here, the 2 radii here, to get the full distance around the circle. So the perimeter is going to be the arc length plus a radius plus a radius. So that's going to be 32.986 blah 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 plus 21 plus 21, which equals 74.986 blah blah blah. And when we round that to 2 decimal places, we get the answer of 74.99. There are a few different ways of finding out product of prime factors. I prefer using the bubble technique. So we just write the number out and we put a bubble around it. And we split that number into 2 numbers. So we find 2 numbers that multiply together to make that number. Now, I always pick the smallest that I can on the left-hand side. Now, the smallest I can think of is 2. And so 2 times 22 is 44. And now we think about 22, and that's 2 times 11. Now you might be thinking, why have I put the 2's in red? The reason why I've put them in red is they are prime numbers. We can't do another thing for the 2. Well, we can, it would be 2 and 1, but we'd be there all day doing 2s and 1s off the 2s. So we leave it as they are, and 11 actually is a prime number itself. So if I'm going to keep up with the theme, I can have that in red as well. Now, notice it says product of prime factors. So the prime factors are 2, 2 and 11. But the word product means times. So it's 2 times 2 times 11. Notice they're in ascending order, so it's 2 times 2 times 11. Now, if we were asked to do it in index form, we would write it as 2 squared times 11. So for this question, what we need to do is factorise 4t plus 6. Now, factorise means put it into brackets. So if I try, what I can do is I can actually put a 1 on the outside here. So 1 times 4t plus 6 is 4t plus 6, but the question clearly states that it is higher than 1. So we need to find another number that's higher than 1 to factorise this with. So if we look at 4t and 6, well, they're both in the 2 times table. So I can put a 2 on the outside here. 2 times 2t is 4t, and 2 times 3 is 6. So what we can do is we can just check that out with smiles and rainbows. Put all my times down there to remind me to times it. So 2 times 2t is 4t, 2 times 3 is 6. So that works because that is the same as this in the question. So we know that 2 times 2t plus 3 works. In fact, it's the only one that works with it being an integer. So we therefore know that the known side, because it says it's a known number, is 2. And the other side will be 2t plus 3. And then when you multiply them together, you get the area of 4t plus 6. So our answer, because it says the length is the known number, so that's the length, then we're finding the width, which is this one here. So it's 2t plus 3. When proving two triangles are congruent, and congruent means exactly the same, we're going to have one of 4 answers. Either side angle side is the same, angle angle side, or angle side angle. Side 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 are the same, or they have the same right angle, hypotenuse, and side. This question doesn't have a right angle, so we can cross that out. It has 2 lengths, so 2 sides, but not 3, so we can cross that one out. It only has 1 angle, so we can cross this one out. So we're looking to see whether it has the same side, then angle, then side. So here we've got 13 as a side, then 139 as an angle, then 6 as a side. 13 as a side, 139 as an angle, and then 6 as a side. So they have the side, angle, side. So 7 times 10 to the power 4 is going to be 7, and it's going to be 70,000. And 9 times 10 to the power of 7 will be 90 million. And so when you add them together, you get 900700000. Now, if you have access to a calculator, if this is on the calculator paper, then you can just type it into your calculator. Some people think there's a quick way of doing this, like adding the 7 and the 9. There isn't. You've just got to work out what this number is, work out what this number is, and add them together. So this question says that Adrian, Ben, and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 suites. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 suites. So the total number of suites will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. So what's happened here is that the company's increased the amount of suites by 15%. So we're just going to focus on that and work out what the multiplier would be first. So they started off with 100% and they added 15%, and then therefore they ended up with 115%. And to find that as a multiplier, we get the 115 and divide it by 100, and that gives us 1.15. So that is the multiplier they used. Now they used that multiplier on the original amount, and they times it by 1.15, and they got the answer of 69. But if we're working the other way to find out what they times by 1.15, we get that 69 and we divide it by the multiplier. So if we want to work out what the original number was, we divide it by the multiplier, and that gives us 60. So the answer will be 60. So we're going to start off by finding the multiplier, and we start off with 100%. It's an increase of 3.4%, so we get increase 3.4%. And so that would be 103.4%. And then we need to make that a multiplier. So we're dividing it by 100. And so that would be 1.034. So anytime we times a number by 1.034, we'll increase it by 3.4%. So it says that we start off with 1,700. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in 1,700 into our calculator. Then we're going to press the equals button. Now what that does is it stores the 1,700 in memory. Then every time we press the ANS button, it's going to remember what the current number is, and we're going to then times that by 1.034. So at the moment the current number stored in memory is the 1,700, times by 1.034 will increase the 1,700 by 3.4. Press it once and it gives us £1,757.80. Now, when we press it again, that would be after the second year. So it puts in the 1,757.80, it puts that in as this answer here, and then raises that by 3.4%. So we've got to keep pressing equals and count how many times we press equals to get to £1,743.26. And you'll find that on the fourth press of the equals button, you will get £1,943.26. I'm going to first of all draw the two triangles out separately. And we've got A, B, C, and then A, D, E. And the first thing to notice is we have similar triangles here, and the way we know that is that we've got an F angle here, which means they're corresponding on the two parallel sides, so these two angles are the same. We've got exactly the same thing on this side, we've got F angles, so these two are corresponding, and then the top angle is shared between the two triangles. And when you've got two triangles with exactly the same angles, they are going to be similar, which means one's an enlargement of the other. I'm just going to put on the length that we've got. Now we're looking for quite a complicated one. We're looking for the length CE, which is this one here. Now I can't actually label that onto my two triangles, but what I do know is that CE is equal to AE minus AC. Now we know what AE is, which is 60. So we just need to find out what AC is, this one here. And when we find out what AC is, we can just take them away to work out what the CE is. So we need two corresponding lengths that we know both of them. So we've got the 9 and 36 here. Because these two triangles are similar, we know that we can work out what the scale factor is. And to work out the scale factor, you do big divided by small. So 36 divided by 9, and we work out that that is going to be 4. So we know we're going to have a scale factor of 4. So to get from the smaller triangle to the big one, we times it by 4. But here we have the one, we need to find out what this one is. So one corresponding is this one. We're going from the big to the small. And so to work out from the big to the small, we've got to divide it by the scale factor. So divide it by 4. So 60 divided by 4 is 15. So we know what this one is. So AC is 15. And so we're going to do AE, which is 60. Take away the 15. And that will tell us what CE is, which is 45. So our answer is 45. We're going to start by focusing on the A and B, which is 8 and 16. So in the middle is going to be 8 and 16. The next thing we're going to focus on is the fact that A is all the multiples of 4. Now 8 and 16 have both already been taken because they're in the middle. So the remaining multiples of 4 are the 4 there and the 12 there. So the next ones I'm going to focus on is the A or B. So A or B is in A, in B, or in the middle. So if we cross out the ones we've already used, so we've already used the 8 and 16 and the 4 and the 12, that leaves the 1 and the 9. We'll cross that out of our other list. And there's only 2 left in our everything list at the top. We've got the 3 and we've got the 11. So on the outside we have 3 and we have 11. So we need to first of all work out what the length of the side of the square is. And to do that, what we do is we get the 44v to the power 4 w to the power 5 and we just divide it by 4. And to do that, all we need to do is just divide the coefficient by 4. So it'd be 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5. Some people will try and do something with the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, but if you think about it, if I just draw out my square, if it's 11v to the power 4 w to the power 5 all the way around, when you add, you don't add the v to the power 4 w to the power 5, it's just going to be 11 lots, another 11 lot, another lot of 11, and another lot of 11. So it's 44 v to the power 4 w to the power 5 in total. And to work out what the area is, we obviously are going to square that. So we're going to do 11 v to the power 4 w to the power 5, and we're going to just times it by itself, which is what squaring means. Okay, so we're going to times the 11s together, so that's going to be 121. Going to times the v to the power 4s together, and remember with indices, if you times 2 powers of the same base, and they're both v, then we just add the powers together, so that'd be 8. And we're going to add the w to the power 5s together, so that makes 10. So it's 121 v to the power of 8, w to the power of 10. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.